The stars looked different from this far out. Captain Alex Miller stood at the observation deck of the Starship Horizon, his eyes fixed on the unfamiliar patterns of light. After 3 years of travel, they had finally reached the edge of what the aliens called the Celestial Conclave, a vast territory spanning hundreds of star systems, all connected by a network of highly advanced civilizations. Beautiful, isn't it? Olivia Dawson, the ship's science officer, joined him at the window. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, her eyes reflecting the distant stars. Alex nodded. Hard to believe we're actually here. First humans to make contact with an advanced alien alliance. First official contact, Olivia corrected, him with a small smile. There were those crashed ships back on Earth. Right, the very tech that got us here. Alex turned away from the view. Any word from the Conclave representatives? They've granted us permission to approach their outpost. Station will be there in 6 hours. The Horizon was Earth's pride and joy, the first true interstellar vessel created by humans, built using principles reverse-engineered from alien technology found in a crash site decades ago. The ship carried 200 of Earth's finest, scientists, diplomats, military personnel, and specialists in various fields. Their mission was simple yet monumental. Establish peaceful contact with the Celestial Conclave and, if possible, negotiate humanity's entry into the galactic community. In the ship's conference room, the mission leaders gathered for a final briefing. Dr. Eric Winters, the expedition's neurobiologist, was speaking when Alex and Olivia entered. The data we've gathered suggests their civilization is at least 1,500 years ahead of ours technologically, Eric said, his lean frame bent over the display table. Their ships use some form of gravity manipulation we barely understand, which means they could destroy us in seconds if they wanted to, noted Security Officer Peter Alvarez, his broad shoulders tense under his uniform. Communications Specialist Samantha Rivera shook her head. If they wanted us gone, they wouldn't have responded to our signals or invited us to their station. Alex took his place at the head of the table. Sam's right. They've been cautious but courteous in all communications. They're curious about us just as we are about them. Chief Engineer John Patel looked up from his tablet. Captain, I've run final diagnostics on all systems. We're operating at peak efficiency. Whatever happens, this ship won't let us down. Good work, everyone, Alex said. I don't need to remind you what's at stake here. We represent not just our mission or our countries, but our entire species. First impressions matter. 6 hours later, the Horizon approached the Conclave outpost, a massive ring-shaped structure that gleamed like polished silver against the blackness of space. Smaller vessels moved around it in perfect coordination, like fish in a cosmic sea. We're being scanned, John announced from his station on the bridge. Multiple frequencies, some I've never seen before. Let them look, Alex replied. We have nothing to hide. A voice came through the communication system, speaking in perfect English. Human vessel Horizon, maintain your approach vector. Docking. Protocols have been transmitted to your navigation systems. Samantha's fingers flew over her console. Captain, they've sent detailed instructions for docking. Their computer systems interfaced with ours like they were made for each other. Well, let's not keep our hosts waiting, Alex said, trying to sound calmer than he felt. The docking procedure went smoothly. Too smoothly, some might say. The Horizon was guided into a massive bay within the station, mechanical arms extending to secure the ship in place. Through the viewports, the crew could see figures moving on distant platforms. Humanoid, but clearly not human, with proportions just different enough to seem alien. A delegation of 6 crew members prepared to disembark. Alex, Olivia, Eric, Samantha, Peter, and diplomat Grace Chen. They gathered at the airlock, each feeling the weight of history on their shoulders. Remember, Grace said quietly, observe all customs they demonstrate. No sudden movements. Follow my lead if you're unsure. The airlock cycled and they stepped onto the station. 3 aliens waited for them. They stood nearly 7 feet tall with slender builds and skin that shimmered with a faint blue-green iridescence. Their faces were almost human, but with larger eyes that seemed to catch and reflect light differently. They wore simple, flowing garments that seemed to shift colors with their movements. One stepped forward. "I am Zel Theron, third envoy of the Celestial Conclave. We welcome the representatives of Earth to our humble outpost." Grace bowed slightly. "We bring greetings from Earth and all humanity. We are honored by your welcome." The initial meeting was cordial, if somewhat formal. The aliens led them through vast corridors of what appeared to be living metal, surfaces that rippled subtly as they passed. They were shown to comfortable quarters and invited to rest before formal talks would begin. But rest did not come easily to Alex. Something about the alien's perfect politeness felt rehearsed, almost studied. He paced his quarters, trying to shake off the feeling. A soft chime indicated someone at his door. It was Olivia. "You feel it too?" she asked without preamble. Alex nodded. "Like we're being evaluated." Eric noticed something during the welcome. The aliens were monitoring, not just visually. He detected subtle energy fields around us. He thinks they were scanning our bodies, maybe even our brains. That would explain the headache. Alex rubbed his temple. "Is it hostile?" "Not necessarily, just thorough." The next morning, or what passed for morning on the station's artificial cycle, they were led to a grand chamber where 7 aliens sat in a semicircle. Their seats were elevated, looking down at the place where the humans were directed to stand. Zeltheron stood to one side. "The High Council of this sector has reviewed the initial data from your arrival. They will now address you." The central figure, taller than the others and with skin that shimmered almost silver, spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We have studied your biology, your neural patterns, and the data cores you brought with you containing your history. We find concerns." Alex stepped forward slightly. "We come in peace, with hopes of learning from and contributing to the conclave." "Peace," the alien repeated as if tasting the word. "Your species knows little of true peace. Your neural patterns show deep capacity for aggression, tribalism, and emotional volatility. Your history is marked by constant warfare and destruction." Grace began to speak, but the alien raised a long-fingered hand. "We call ourselves the Ascended because we have risen above our biological origins. Through careful genetic modification and neural enhancement, we have eliminated the primitive drives that once plagued our civilizations. We have achieved near-perfect rationality." Another council member spoke. "You humans remain beasts, intelligent beasts, but beasts nonetheless. The emotional centers of your brains dominate your thinking in ways our species left behind 1,000 years ago." Alex felt his face grow hot, but Grace placed a warning hand on his arm. "With respect," she said, "our emotional capacity also gives us creativity, compassion, and resilience. We have overcome great challenges because of these qualities, not despite them." The council members looked at each other, communicating in some silent way. Finally, the central figure spoke again. "The conclave has reached a preliminary decision. Earth may not join as an equal member. You have 2 options. Accept protectorate status under our supervision, allowing us to guide your species' development, or face quarantine within your solar system until you evolve beyond your current state." "This is unacceptable," Alex said, unable to contain himself. "You invited us here as potential equals. Now you judge us as inferior based on your standards alone?" "Not inferior," Zeltheron said softly. "Simply dangerous. To yourselves and others." The central counselor nodded. "Until your final decision is made, your crew will remain here for further study. A small diplomatic contingent may return to Earth to present our terms. The rest will be housed in appropriate observation habitats." "You mean as prisoners?" Peter said, his hand instinctively moving toward the weapon he had been required to leave behind. "As guests," the counselor corrected, "who require supervision for their own safety and ours." As guards appeared at the EO chamber's entrance, Alex realized with sinking clarity that the Horizon's maiden voyage had become a trap. They had traveled across the stars hoping to find friends and equals. Instead, they had found beings who looked upon humans as little more than clever animals, beasts to be tamed or caged. The irony wasn't lost on him. Humanity's first step into the galactic community had led them straight into a cage of alien making. But as he met Olivia's determined gaze across the chamber, he silently vowed this would not be how their story ended. They had been called beasts. Perhaps it was time to show these ascended beings just how dangerous Earth's children could be. Dr. Eric Winters sat completely still in a small, sterile room. His head was surrounded by a halo-like device that hummed softly. This was the 5th brain scan the aliens had performed on him in 3 days. Across from him, 2 of the Ascended monitored floating displays that showed colorful images of his brain activity. Fascinating, one said to the other. The limbic system responses are so intense. Look at the activity in the amygdala when we show the simulation of a threat to his crewmates. The other alien nodded. Such primitive design, all that neural space dedicated to emotional processing. So inefficient. They spoke as if Eric couldn't understand them. Or perhaps they simply didn't care. The humans had been separated into different observation habitats throughout the station. For 3 weeks now, they had been subjected to constant tests and studies. The Ascended seemed particularly interested in human brain function and emotional responses. When the scan finished, Eric was escorted back to the habitat he shared with 5 other crew members. As soon as the door closed behind him, he slumped onto a bench next to Samantha Rivera. "Another brain scan?" she asked, her voice low. Eric nodded, rubbing his temples. "They're obsessed with our emotional responses. They keep calling our brain structure primitive because we have such active emotional centers." Samantha looked around to make sure no one else was listening. The habitat was comfortable enough, clean with adequate food and sleeping areas, but they were certain it was monitored. "I've noticed something," she whispered. "When they had me test their communication systems yesterday, I saw the equipment react strangely when I got frustrated." The display flickered just for a second. Eric looked at her curiously. "What do you mean?" "I don't know exactly, but it's happened 3 times now. Their technology seems to respond somehow when I feel strong emotions." Eric was about to reply when the habitat door opened and Captain Miller was escorted in. He looked tired but determined. "Any news?" Peter Alvarez asked, coming over to join them. Alex shook his head. "They're still insisting that Earth accept protectorate status. The diplomatic team they allowed to return home has delivered the message, but our governments are stalling." "As they should," Peter said. "Becoming their protectorate would mean giving up our independence." Olivia Dawson joined their small circle. "We need to find a way to contact Earth directly. The aliens are only allowing carefully monitored communications." "I might have something," Eric said quietly. He quickly told them about Samantha's observations regarding the alien technology's reaction to human emotions. "It could be nothing," Samantha added. "Maybe just coincidence. Or maybe not," Eric said. "I've been thinking about these brain scans. They keep doing. They're fascinated by our limbic system, the emotional center of our brains. They keep saying they've evolved past having such active emotional centers." "What are you suggesting?" Alex asked. "I'm not sure yet, but I have a theory. What if there's something about human emotions that interacts with their technology in ways they don't understand? Or maybe in ways they've forgotten?" Later that night, while the others slept, Eric lay awake thinking. The aliens had given him access to certain scientific databases as part of their studies, allowing him to learn about their physiology. The Ascended had indeed modified themselves extensively over centuries. They had enhanced their rational thinking capacity while deliberately reducing the parts of their brains related to emotional response, the very parts they kept scanning. In the humans, a plan began to form in his mind. The next morning, during his scheduled research time, Eric requested information about the Ascended's evolutionary history. The alien supervising him seemed surprised but granted access. What Eric found was fascinating. Thousands of years ago, the various species that now made up the Ascended had all independently begun programs of self-modification. They had literally engineered out what they considered primitive emotional responses, seeing them as a source of conflict and irrationality. When Eric was returned to the habitat, he immediately gathered his friends. "I think I understand now," he said excitedly. "They've been modifying themselves for thousands of years, reducing their emotional capacity. But I think they lost something in the process, something they don't even remember they had." "What do you mean?" Olivia asked. "In their historical records, there are references to abilities they can no longer access, things that sound almost magical. Sensing energies, moving objects without touching them, even limited forms of telepathy." Peter snorted. "You're talking about psychic powers. Come on, Eric." "I know how it sounds," Eric admitted. "But consider this. What if these abilities are linked to the emotional centers of the brain? The very parts they've been reducing for generations. The parts they keep studying in us." Samantha's eyes widened. "And I've seen their tech respond when I feel strong emotions." "Exactly," Eric said. "I think humans still have abilities the Ascended have engineered out of themselves. Abilities linked to our emotional, primitive brains." Alex looked skeptical but intrigued. "Even if you're right, how does this help us?" "I need to run some tests," Eric said. "But if I'm correct, we might have an advantage they don't expect." Over the next week, Eric and Samantha conducted careful experiments. When alone with alien technology, they focused on experiencing strong emotions while observing the results. Anger caused power fluctuations. Deep concentration seemed to affect data displays. Fear made security fields waver slightly. "It's real," Samantha told the others one night. "We can affect their technology with our minds, but only when we're feeling intense emotions." "Almost like the stories from Earth," Olivia said. "Psychic powers, magic, divine abilities. What if those were just descriptions of real abilities humans had, but couldn't explain scientifically?" "And the Ascended eliminated these abilities when they modified their brains," Eric added. "They thought they were evolving, but they were actually losing something fundamental." "So what now?" Peter asked. "We can make their lights flicker when we get angry. How does that help us escape?" "We need to practice," Eric said. "Learn to control it, and somehow we need to get a message to Earth." Meanwhile, Chief Engineer John Patel had been working on his own solution. The aliens had allowed him limited access to the Horizon's systems for maintenance. During these supervised visits, he had been secretly modifying the ship's communication array. One night he returned to the habitat with a small device hidden in his sleeve. "I think I can send a narrow beam transmission to Earth," he whispered to Alex. "Just once and very brief. What message should we send?" Alex looked at Eric, who had been explaining his discoveries. "Tell them we've found a weakness," Alex said. "Tell them that humanity's greatest strength is the very thing the aliens think makes us beasts." 3 days later, when John was again allowed to work on the Horizon, he activated his hidden modification. For just 3 seconds, a tightly focused transmission burst from the ship, aimed directly at Earth. It contained encrypted data about Eric's discovery, that humans possessed latent psionic abilities linked to their emotional brains, abilities the Ascended had lost. The aliens detected the transmission immediately. Alarms blared throughout the station, and John was seized and placed in isolation. But it was too late. The message had been sent. And on Earth, military scientists would soon begin exploring a stunning possibility. That humanity's perceived weakness might actually be their greatest weapon against the technologically superior Ascended. In their habitat, despite John's capture, the remaining crew felt hope for the first time in weeks. They had found something the Ascended didn't understand and couldn't counter. Now they just needed to learn how to use it before it was too late. Peter Alvarez closed his eyes and focused on his breathing. In, out, in, out. Then he pictured a shield, a wall of energy surrounding him. He thought of his friends, his family back on Earth, his fellow crew members. He felt the desire to protect them grow strong in his chest. A faint blue glow appeared around his hands. "That's it," Eric whispered excitedly. "Keep that feeling. Protection, safety, the need to shield others from harm." The blue glow extended slightly, forming a small bubble of shimmering energy around Peter's hands. It lasted for 5 seconds. before fading away. Peter opened his eyes, breathing hard as if he had run a mile. It's getting stronger. It had been 2 weeks since John was taken away for sending the secret message to Earth. The aliens had increased security, but they hadn't punished the rest of the crew. Instead, they seemed even more interested in studying them. This had given Eric, Samantha, and the others time to secretly practice their newly discovered abilities. They had learned that different emotional states triggered different abilities. Eric's focused curiosity allowed him to sense energy fields. Samantha's empathy let her feel the presence of others even through walls. Olivia discovered she could briefly see patterns of information in alien computer systems when she felt intense concentration. And Peter, motivated by protectiveness, could generate small energy shields. Even Captain Miller had found his ability. When he felt determined leadership, he could strengthen the abilities of others nearby. "We're getting stronger every day," Alex said quietly as they gathered in a corner of their habitat during rest period. "But we need to be careful. If the aliens realize what we're doing..." "I think they suspect something," Olivia said. "The way they're watching us has changed. More scans, more tests." "Has anyone heard anything about John?" Samantha asked. Alex shook his head. "Nothing. And no word about Earth's response to the Conclave's demands either." "We need to be ready," Eric said. "Whatever happens next, we need to be ready." 3 days later, their habitat door opened unexpectedly. Zeltharan, the alien who had first greeted them upon their arrival, entered. "Captain Miller," he said, "your presence is requested in the communication center. Your planetary governments have sent a response to the Conclave's offer." Alex stood, exchanging quick glances with his crew. "And my people? They may accompany you." This was unusual. The aliens had been keeping them separated for most activities. Something had changed. In the communication center, a large screen showed an image of the United Earth Defense Council. General Laurel West, a stern-faced woman with short gray hair, spoke directly to the camera. "To the leaders of the Celestial Conclave, we have considered your offer of protectorate status and find it unacceptable. Earth will not surrender its sovereignty. We request the immediate return of our citizens and our vessel." One of the alien counselors stepped forward. "And if we deny this request, then we will consider it an act of hostility," General West replied. "Our analysis of your technology suggests you are indeed advanced beyond our current capabilities. However, humanity has never backed down from a challenge simply because the odds were unfavorable." The alien counselor's expression didn't change, but his skin tone shifted slightly to a deeper blue. "You would threaten us with what? Your primitive weapons cannot reach our worlds. Perhaps not today," the general said. "But we can reach the borders of our own system, the borders you plan to blockade. We have prepared a response should you attempt to enforce this quarantine." After the communication ended, Alex and his crew were escorted back to their habitat. "What do you think Earth is planning?" Samantha asked once they were alone. "I don't know," Alex replied. "But did you notice how worried Zeltharan looked? I think Earth's message surprised them." The next day, alarms sounded throughout the station. Through the habitat's small window, they could see ships coming and going with unusual urgency. Olivia, who had been practicing her ability to read alien data systems, placed her hands against the wall near a control panel and closed her eyes, in concentration. "They're mobilizing," she said after a moment, "sending ships to the edge of our solar system. They're going to establish the blockade. And Earth is going to challenge it," Alex said. "That's what the general meant." Later that day, Zeltharan came to their habitat again. He seemed troubled. "Your species continues to confound us," he said. "Your governments reject our generous offer and instead choose conflict." "We choose freedom," Alex replied. "Not conflict." Zeltharan's large eyes studied Alex intently. "I argued for your species, Captain. I suggested you might be worthy of joining the Conclave despite your limitations. Few agreed with me. And now? Now the High Council has ordered a blockade of your system. Ships are already moving into position. And what will happen to us?" Peter asked, stepping forward. "You will remain here," For your safety. Zeltharan turned to leave, then paused. Your species values emotion so highly. Tell me, Captain, is your freedom worth the lives that will be lost when your primitive ships challenge our blockade? After he left, the crew gathered in their usual corner. Earth must have some kind of plan, Olivia said. They wouldn't send ships against the Conclave without one. Maybe they got our message, Eric suggested. Maybe they've discovered the same abilities we have. Either way, Alex said, when Earth challenges the blockade, there will be confusion. That might be our best chance to escape. How? Samantha asked. We're locked in here and the horizon is heavily guarded. We've been practicing our abilities in secret, Alex replied. It's time to see what we can really do when we work together. They spent the next 2 days preparing. Each crew member practiced their ability to exhaustion, then rested and practiced again. They learned to combine their powers, Peter creating a shield while Samantha extended her empathic sense beyond it. Eric detecting energy fields while Olivia read information systems. On the 3rd day, the alarm sounded again, louder than before. Olivia immediately went to the control panel and placed her hands against it, closing her eyes in concentration. Earth ships, she exclaimed. 3 vessels just appeared at the edge of the system. They're engaging the blockade. Can you tell what kind of ships? Alex asked. Olivia shook her head. The aliens seem confused. The ships are using technology they don't recognize, almost like they reversed engineered alien tech, Eric finished for her, just like we did with the Horizon. This is it, Alex said. Everyone get ready. When the aliens are distracted by the attack, we make our move. As the station erupted in activity around them, the crew gathered in a circle. Alex stood in the center, his expression determined. Remember what we practiced. Peter, you'll shield us. Samantha, you'll sense for guards. Eric, detect energy barriers. Olivia, hack their systems to open doors. I'll boost all your abilities. And once we reach the horizon? Peter asked. John showed me his backup systems before he was taken, Alex said. If we can get to the ship, I can fly us out of here. They joined hands, feeling their combined abilities growing stronger. Through the window, they could see flashes of light in the distance. The battle at the edge of the system had begun. Now, Alex commanded. Together, they released the power they had been learning to control. Peter's protective shield expanded around them all, glowing bright blue. Olivia's eyes gleamed as she mentally reached for the door controls. With a soft hiss, their prison opened. The rebellion had begun. Alarms blared throughout the station as Alex led his crew through the corridors. Peter maintained his blue energy shield around them, though it flickered with each passing minute as his strength drained. Left here? Olivia whispered, her eyes half closed as she read the station systems. The docking bay is 3 levels down. They encountered 2 alien guards at an intersection. Before the Ascended could react, Samantha stepped forward, her hands extended. The aliens froze, their eyes glazing over as she projected calming emotions into their minds. They won't remember seeing us, she said as they hurried past. Eric moved to the front of the group, his hands tracing patterns in the air as he detected energy fields. Security barrier ahead, he warned. Very strong. They stopped before a shimmering wall of barely visible energy that blocked the entire corridor. I can't shut it down from here, Olivia said after attempting to access the system. It's isolated from the main network. Alex placed his hands on Peter and Eric's shoulders. Together then. Peter, push your shield against it. Eric, find the weak points. As Alex channeled his leadership energy into them, Peter's shield grew brighter. Eric pointed to spots in the barrier. There, and there. Those are the thinnest points. Peter gritted his teeth and pushed his shield forward. Where it touched the barrier, blue energy flared against pale green. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like shattering glass, the security field collapsed. That will definitely alert them to our location, Alex said. Move faster now. They raced through the corridors, following Olivia's directions. Behind them, they heard the sounds of pursuit. More alarms joined the chorus, already filling the station. "The docking bay is just ahead," Olivia said as they rounded a corner. They burst through a set of doors into the massive space where the horizon was held. A dozen aliens were working around the ship, and several security personnel stood guard. "There," Alex pointed. Near a control station was John Patel, their missing engineer. He was under guard, apparently being forced to work on something. When the aliens saw the humans enter, they immediately moved to intercept them. Peter expanded his shield, now glowing bright blue, to protect the group. "John," Alex called out, "we're getting out of here." Across the bay, John looked up in surprise. Then a smile spread across his face. He slammed his hand down on a console, and suddenly the lights throughout the docking bay flickered and went out, replaced by dim emergency lighting. "He's disabled their systems," Olivia said. "Smart move." The security guards fired energy weapons at Peter's shield. Each blast made the blue barrier flicker dangerously. "I can't hold this much longer," Peter gasped, sweat pouring down his face. Alex made a quick decision. "Eric, Olivia, get to the ship and start the launch sequence. Samantha, help me get John. Peter, just hold on a little longer." With a coordinated move, they split up. Eric and Olivia ran for the Horizon's entry ramp while Alex and Samantha circled around toward John. Peter remained in place, his shield now contracting to just protect himself as he backed slowly toward the ship. The aliens were regrouping, calling for reinforcements. In the distance, through the docking bay's massive windows, flashes of light indicated that the battle at the edge of the solar system was intensifying. As Alex and Samantha approached John, his guards raised their weapons. Samantha focused her empathic ability, projecting feelings of confusion and disorientation. The guards hesitated, their aim wavering. "Now!" Alex yelled. John ducked under the console and ran toward them. Together, they sprinted for the horizon. Peter had reached the ship's ramp. His shield was now barely visible, little more than a shimmer in the air. As Alex, Samantha, and John ran up the ramp, Peter collapsed. Alex caught him, dragging him inside as the ramp began to close. "Everyone's aboard," Alex shouted as they entered the bridge. "Olivia, status?" Olivia sat at the navigation console, her hands dancing over the controls. "Eric has bypassed their locks on our systems. Engines are powering up." "They're sealing the docking bay doors," Eric called from the engineering station. "Too late," Alex said, taking the captain's chair. "Full power to engines. We're blasting out of here." The Horizon's engines roared to life. The ship lifted off the docking bay floor and turned toward the massive doors that were slowly closing ahead of them. "Weapons online," Samantha reported from the tactical station. "Targeting the doors. Fire!" Energy beams lanced from the Horizon, striking the center of the closing doors. Metal glowed red, then white, then melted away, leaving a gap just large. "Enough for the ship, hold on," Alex called as he pushed the engines to maximum. The Horizon shot forward, scraping through the opening and out into space. Behind them, the alien station was a hive of activity. Small pursuit ships were already launching. "Set course for Earth," Alex ordered. "Maximum speed." As the Horizon accelerated away from the station, Zeltharan watched from a command center. "They are more resourceful than we anticipated," he said to the counselor beside him. "And dangerous," the counselor replied. "Did you see what they did? Energy manipulation without technology. The ancient abilities we thought were mere legends. Not legends after all," Zeltharan said quietly. "Perhaps we were wrong about them. It doesn't matter now. The blockade fleet will stop them before they reach Earth." On board the Horizon, the crew gathered on the bridge as the ship raced through space. "What happened while I was gone?" John asked. "How did you do all that energy stuff?" Eric quickly explained their discovery about human emotional centers and the abilities they had learned to control. "And Earth?" John asked. "What's happening at the blockade?" "We don't know." "Exactly," Alex replied. "But Earth seems to have ships that can challenge the aliens." "They got my message then," John said with satisfaction. "I included specs on the alien tech I'd analyzed." A signal chimed on the communication console. Samantha moved to it. Incoming transmission. It's from one of the Earth ships. A face appeared. On the main screen, Commander Nicole Wright, her expression stern but with a hint of triumph. Horizon, this is the EDS Defiant. Good to see you made it out. We've been causing some trouble out here to help with that. Commander, Alex acknowledged. Your timing is perfect. What's the situation? 3 experimental warships against 15 alien vessels, Nicole replied. We're holding our own, barely. The tech from your engineer's message helped us level the playing field somewhat, but we need to get you and your crew back to Earth immediately. Your discoveries about these abilities are game changers. We're on our way, Alex confirmed. But there will be pursuit. We know. Lieutenant Ryan Collins is leading a stealth team to rendezvous with you at these coordinates. The screen displayed a location. They'll escort you past the blockade while we keep the main fleet busy. As the transmission ended, Olivia adjusted their course. 6 hours to the rendezvous point, and alien pursuit ships will catch us in 5, Samantha added grimly. Alex looked around at his tired crew. Then we'll have to use everything we've learned. Our ship, our technology, and these new abilities. Together. For Earth, Peter said. Still weak but standing firm. For humanity, Alex agreed. As the Horizon raced toward the rendezvous, the crew prepared for one more battle. Behind them, alien ships closed the gap. Ahead, Earth's forces fought to create a path home. And within each of them, the power that the Ascended had forgotten, the power that humans still carried, grew stronger with each passing hour. The Horizon shuddered as another energy blast struck its shields. On the bridge, the crew worked frantically to keep the ship running. John had rerouted power from non-essential systems, but their shields were failing. 3 alien pursuit ships, closing fast, Samantha reported from the tactical station. Our shields are down to 20%. Alex gripped the arms of the captain's chair. Time to the rendezvous point? 30 minutes, Olivia answered. But those ships will be on us. In 10. We need more time, Eric said. He stood from his station looking at each of his friends. I have an idea, but it's risky. Let's hear it, Alex said. We've been using our abilities separately, but what if we combined them, all of us together, focused on the same goal? Like what we did at the station, Peter said. But bigger. Much bigger, Eric nodded. If we can generate enough energy, we might be able to boost our shields or even create a distraction. It's worth trying, Alex decided. Everyone circle up here on the bridge. The crew formed a circle, joining hands. Alex stood in the center. Focus on what we're fighting for, he told them. Our ship, our home, Earth, all of humanity. They closed their eyes. Each crew member called upon the emotion that powered their ability. Peter's protective instinct, Samantha's empathy, Eric's curiosity, Olivia's concentration, John's creative determination. And at the center, Alex channeled their energy with his leadership. A glow began to form around them, not just blue like Peter's shields, but a swirling mixture of colors. It expanded outward, filling the bridge, then spreading throughout the ship. Something's happening to our shields, John said, opening his eyes to glance at his console. They're not just holding, they're growing stronger. Outside the ship, the horizon became surrounded by a brilliant aura visible even to the naked eye. In the pursuing alien vessels, sensors went wild. We're confusing their targeting systems, Samantha reported with excitement. They can't get a lock on us. Push harder, Alex encouraged them. Feel it growing. The energy field around the horizon pulsed, then expanded outward in a massive wave. When it struck the alien ships, their systems flickered and failed temporarily. The pursuit vessels fell back, their engines stalling. It worked, Olivia cried. They've dropped behind us. And we've bought ourselves enough time, Alex said. Well done, everyone. 20 minutes later, they reached the rendezvous coordinates. 3 sleek black ships appeared seemingly out of nowhere. Unlike the Horizon, these vessels were built for stealth and combat. Horizon, this is Lieutenant Ryan Collins of the Terran Stealth Force, came a voice over the comm. Looks like you've had some excitement. Form up with us and follow our lead. The small convoy adjusted course, heading directly for the blockade line where the main battle was raging. Through the view screen, they could see energy weapons firing, and explosions blooming in the blackness of space. Earth's experimental ships are putting up a fight, Ryan's voice came again. But they won't last much longer against the alien fleet. We need to break through now while they're distracted. What's the plan? Alex asked. We go straight through using our stealth systems. However, your ship doesn't have the same cloaking capability. You'll be visible. Then we'll draw their fire, Alex decided. Give them something to look at while your ships slip through. That's suicide, Ryan protested. Not necessarily. Alex looked at his crew. I think we can create a bigger distraction than the aliens are expecting. As they approached the battle zone, the crew gathered again. This time they had a clearer purpose and more confidence in their abilities. They called us beasts, Alex reminded them. They thought our emotions made us primitive, dangerous. Let's show them just how right they were. Once more they joined hands and focused their energies. But this time, they didn't hold back. Every fear, every hope, every ounce of determination they possessed flowed into their combined power. The energy field around the horizon grew until it dwarfed the ship itself, becoming a blazing beacon visible across the battlefield. Both Earth and alien vessels paused in their fighting as the phenomenon grew larger. Inside the circle, Samantha gasped. I can feel them, everyone on our ships, the aliens, even people back on Earth. We're all connected. Use it, Eric urged. Project what we've discovered. Let everyone know. Samantha closed her eyes tighter, sending out the knowledge they had gained. How to access the psionic abilities dormant in every human. The information flowed through the energy field, reaching the crews of Earth's ships. Across the battlefield, humans began to experiment with their own nascent abilities. On the bridge of the EDS Defiant, Commander Nicole Wright found she could enhance her crew's reflexes and coordination. Weapons officers discovered they could guide projectiles with their minds. Engineers realized they could sense weaknesses in enemy vessels. The tide of battle shifted dramatically. Though outnumbered and using inferior technology, Earth's ships began to prevail as human crews tapped into abilities the aliens had forgotten existed. On the lead alien vessel, the High Counselor watched in disbelief. What is happening? He demanded. Seltherin, who had joined the blockade fleet, stared at the displays with wonder. They're using the ancient powers, the ones we thought were myths. Impossible. Those are just stories from our primitive past. No, Seltherin said quietly. Not stories. We engineered those abilities out of ourselves, believing them to be vestiges of our emotional, irrational past, but they were part of our connection to the universe itself. On the horizon, the crew's energy had grown beyond anything they could control. The ship was now surrounded by a phenomenon that resembled a solar flare, with tendrils of energy reaching out across space. To the aliens watching, it appeared as if ancient deities from their own mythologies had manifested around the human ship. Beings of pure energy taking forms that stirred racial memories from before the Ascended had modified themselves. What are they? An alien officer whispered. What we once were, Seltherin answered. What we could have been. The blockade broke. Alien ships retreated before the display of power they couldn't comprehend or counter. Earth's vessels, newly empowered, pressed the advantage. As the horizon and its stealth escort broke through the line and headed for Earth, the energy phenomenon slowly faded. Inside the ship, the crew collapsed in exhaustion but triumph. 2 days later, the Horizon entered Earth orbit to a hero's welcome. The crew was immediately taken to a secure facility where scientists and military leaders waited eagerly to learn everything about the abilities they had discovered. In a large conference room, Alex stood before the United Earth Defense Council, his crew beside him. What you've discovered changes everything, General West said. The aliens thought us primitive because of our emotions, but those emotions are the key to abilities they've lost. They called us beasts, Alex agreed. Little, knowing we carried divine power within us all along. On the edge of the solar system, the alien blockade had fully withdrawn. But one ship remained, Zeltharin's. He had sent a message requesting to speak not as an enemy, but as a student seeking to learn what his people had forgotten. Humanity would face challenges ahead, but they would face them with newfound strength and the knowledge that what had once been seen as their greatest weakness was in truth their most profound power.